to have a better life. And it's very touching that Tooele is allowing us to grow this program, partially because there's such a need. Just to give you guys a little bit of statistics, we have approximately about 80 clients or 80 employees within our facility, and 50 of those employees are Tooele residents. So we want to employ Tooele residents specifically because we want to bring more business to Tooele itself. So, any questions other than that?
Okay. Questions from the commission?
Yes, I'd like to ask the applicant a couple of questions.
Please.
Okay. Thank you for your introduction. That did answer some of the questions that I had. One of the questions was I wanted to know what your business model was. You said that you accept Medicaid. Do you also have any other forms of financial assistance for people who are not on Medicaid? Do you have any donors that support that, or could you tell me what an applicant would take to get into your facility?
So we don't take any private insurance.
Oh, private.
So
Okay.
our program is not set up for that, and it really is Medicaid. Depending on circumstances, if it's a tribal member from a tribe here in the state of Utah or wherever it might be, we are governed by IHS, Indian Health Services. So that's the replacement of HHS. So that's who we answer to. So within our
You said HHS? Who is HHS?
Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services.
The state of Utah?
No. So our governing body is IHS. So it's a little bit different. So they have a little bit higher standards than HHS, but that is who, I guess you could say, oversees what we do.
Okay.
Specifically.
So forgive me again, IHS, who is that?
Indian Health Services.
Okay, Indian Health Services.
Yeah.
Okay, because I called Doppel to see if you were registered, and I didn't find your licensing. You're not registered through the state of Utah under NATSU or the other names that you've got.
So it's a little bit different for an IHS facility. So we're considered what we call an IHS facility. So every tribe has the ability to do what they call a 638 contract. A 638 contract is pretty much allows the facility themselves to have a health facility, have a behavioral health facility, and IHS governs us as an organization.
Okay, so IHS again, is that federal? Like who oversees, who's the oversight for IHS?
The federal government. So it's a federal entity, yes.
Okay. And so are they allowed to come in and inspect your property, inspect your records?
They are.
That there's
Yep.
oversight
So
that way?
we have audits, and they can inspect us. So yes.
Okay. You indicated that you have a large staff. I'm surprised. Do you already have 50 employees at this facility right now? But do you have residents that are there already?
So we've had residents for a while. Our residents were over by across the street from Mountain West Hospital.
And I'm aware of your facility there, but
Yes.
was that residential at that
That was
point?
residential.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yep, that was
Okay.
residential at the time. And that was why part of the mayor has helped us push to get these facilities because of the need, and also because it just wasn't an adequate space for us.
Okay. So because you are governed by IHS, and that's under the federal government, do you have to comply with state and local codes?
Yes, we do, to some extent, meaning in the aspect of our governing body is IHS, so it's not HHS, so we don't have to get specifically. It's recommended, but it's not something that is expected of us. But we have to comply by city code. As you remember, we requested to get zoned for this specific area before we acquired it, so we have to comply by that. As well as anything, if we have any remodels, of course, we'd want to go through the proper channels to get that taken care of, so yes.
Certainly. And you answered my question about security on site. That was good. Are you a facility that provides detox?
So, no, not at this time. We have some plans on possibly getting some social detox, and as well as opening and expanding into a medical detox down the road.
Okay, so do you have to have a registered nurse? Are you under the care of a doctor? Who provides the medical oversight for your facilities?
So we have a health clinic that's right just down the road here on Aaron Drive, right across from the health clinic, or excuse me, hospital. So we have a medical doctor that oversees our medication. So yes, we do have somebody that does that.
Okay. And then you answered my question about being an open campus, so the patients aren't going to be free to come and go. What's the duration of an usual normal stay? Do you consider this to be short-term treatment, long-term treatment?
So typically treatment's about 60 days is what we have. We'll get our, so it varies. So depending on so we have 60-day treatment, and depending on the treatment level of where they at can go past that up to 120 days. And then from there we have what we call a phase 2. Phase 2, people are beginning to kind of get back into society. There is still treatment. And for our phase 2, people are still there, housed there with us, but then they start to get back into the work mode. They start getting jobs. They're still doing treatment with us. So there is some time. So it could be between, I would say, 120 days up to maybe a little bit further beyond that, 160 days. Just depends. So each individual is different. So it's not a cut and dry.
Okay. And then do you provide aftercare after they're released out of your program to, say another facility to assist in helping them to get a job?
So yes, so we have in the process assisted employment. So there's a couple of things that we do. So our case managers help with a variety of different things. That is part of what our case management does. Their role is to help them identify the needs that they need, if it be a job, resume, more education, and they also they participate in our outpatient services. We also have an outpatient services, so which they can come 2 or 3 times per week. It just kind of depends on each client's level of comfort and what they need.
Okay. And if I could just ask one more question?
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Just with regard to, you have transitional living for men, and Mr. Harris touched on that. What type of criminal records would be allowed? Are you going to allow people to come to your facility that have been released from a correctional facility that are on probation?
That is part of yes. That is
And
part of
who
our program.
monitors their probation while they're at your facility?
So the probation officer visits. So probation's officers, they know. So any treatment facility, not just ours, any treatment facility has the ability to, and I would say almost all treatment facilities have individuals that are in parole. And that relationship is built with that facility. And our case management has that relationship with those individuals. And a lot of times, judges, even here in Tooele and Salt Lake, will release individuals to certain facilities with the anticipation that that program will help them. Some of these individuals, their charges are 100% drug related. They don't have any criminal background. It's just drug related per se, any violence or anything like that. So the system wants to help them get back into society. So the parole officers work with the treatment facilities, and that relationship is kind of created. So to answer that question, all facilities do that, not just ours. There is that relationship with parole officers, so yes.
Okay, and so just because that was my last question to you, being on probation just leads me to the comment that Mr. Harris also made regarding the daycare that is in your proximity and the other businesses that are located around there. Safety of the children is the utmost, importance. We also have compassion for those citizens that need to be treated at your facility, certainly, but we also want to protect the surrounding businesses. So could you give me an idea of how you're going to protect the businesses and the daycare and the residents that are in your area?
So that's kind of a tricky question, in my opinion, because by saying that, you're implying that our residents are of violence of some nature. So I would probably challenge you on that by saying that a good chunk of our clients, if not all, have gone through a challenging time. women that have fallen into addiction, that have the fear of losing their children, men that have fallen to alcohol, that don't have the capacity to keep a steady job. Those are the people who we see. So we don't. That is not the demographics who we're focusing on. We're not focusing on sex abusers. We're not focusing on sex offenders. We're not focusing on criminals that have murdered. Those are not our clients. And as you begin to see other recovery facilities, interestingly enough, the biggest fear is with bringing this type of facility that there'll be more crime. It's actually the opposite. As mentioned before, they're your neighbors. They're the people who come to church with you that are opiate users. And a lot of times you guys don't see them. These people go to church on a regular basis, either LDS or Catholicism, but they hide it for years until finally they break and say, I need help. Those are the people who come to our facility.
And certainly, and I wasn't categorizing their character. I just wondered if you had a written policy or procedure, that your governing board would abide by that would guarantee or at least give comfort to those who are here. Mr. Harris represented several businesses that are in his area. What guarantee does he have that your business has a policy that would be a protection to your neighbors?
I can't guarantee anything, just like the business below me couldn't guarantee that a car could run into my facility, or just like a drunk driver could come into my facility. I don't have a guarantees. Now, we have policies, absolutely, but that policy won't guarantee that somebody might do something. No, I don't think there's any policy. It'd be the same thing if I asked a liquor store, what's the guarantee that somebody won't come over here drunk and break into my business? It's the same thing. Or even somebody who sells marijuana. What's your guarantee to do that?
Well, I wasn't asking for a guarantee. I was asking for a policy or procedure.
Yeah,
Do you have one in
policies.
place?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Further questions? Commissioner Dunn.
So I'm going to touch on that a little bit, but does your facility, because it is a big facility, do you have like a security system in place that's monitored, both internal and external, that would protect both your residents and your staff, as well as anyone potentially external? Because we can't always predict what will or won't happen, and we definitely want both internal and external to be safe. Is that something you have, or like a security team in place?
Thank you for asking that question. So yes, one of the biggest things for us is to have eyes on all of our facility. We cannot operate without knowing where our blind spots are, as well as all of our areas. So yes, we have the current system that was in place by the previous owners was very good. And we're actually adding more to that just so we don't have any blind spots. And in addition to that, as mentioned, we will have security 24/7 walking around, making sure that there's nothing there, nothing happening. Interestingly enough, we worry more about the outside than the inside, because we don't know. Some of these women that come here come from abusive situations, and we don't want their spouses, their partners coming here. So as much as we're protecting them, they're also our, we want to protect others as well.
Thank you.
I just have one logistic question. So will you be moving all of your operations from what you're doing now down on Aaron Drive to this location, or will there still be duality there?
So the only thing that we'll actually be operating over at Aaron Drive is our outpatient services.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And we'll have our health clinic there, and they're in our administrative offices.
All right.
Seeing no further questions, thank you, Mr.
Wait, I
President.
have one.
Sorry.
Sorry.
You're supposed to do like this
I
or
know.
something.
I just need a clarification on the fencing. You mentioned like a piece of fence and then a gate on one side. And is that a perimeter, a fence? Do you have continuing fence all the way around the perimeter?
For the most part, yes.
What is, I don't know what that means.
So
for the
yes,
most
so the
part?
question was, are we going to have fencing throughout the entire?
Right.
Yes, we are. We will have fencing
But you
throughout.
said for the most part, what did you mean by that?
Meaning that we will have, on the front, they will have an iron gate. So you will be able to see this. There'll be fencing there.
Yeah.
Yes, so, and on the back, we'll also have a gate. And then over on the southeast corner right there, we'll also have enclosing that as well. So
Okay.
just the iron gates is where it won't be completely
Right.
closed off.
But it's closed in, okay.
Yes.
One more, thank you. Parking, there are 108 stalls there currently. You said you'll have between 50 and 80 employees, not there all at once, of course.
No, not at all.
But how often, or is it, do the residents of your facility often bring a car, or
No,
it's unusual? Or
it's very
What do you
unusual.
think about parking? What would the situation be like?
so
the
our
guests.
parking for our employees will be adequate enough.
Okay.
For those individuals that are going into what we call our phase 2, that will be kind of transitioning to work, a lot of them don't buy cars just because they don't have money to start out with. So we'll be taking the transit system. We have a shuttle that will actually be providing transportation for some of our clients that are working in town. Some may, depending on if they have the ability, but no, most likely not.
What would you do if there wasn't adequate parking? Like, where would overflow parking go?
So we have right now a significant amount of parking. I don't think we'll get to that point, to be honest with you. Just for the amount of people that we have, as well as what we have programmed for transportation, I don't think we'll get to that point.
Okay. And how many, sorry, one more. How many residents will you have at a time, of male residents and female?
So we have approximately will be 60 male and 60 female, give or take.
Thank you.
Please, any more questions? Feel free.
No, I don't. Okay, seeing no further questions from the commission. Anyone else? We had some late arrivals, so I'll go ahead and keep the public hearing open if someone else has a question or comment. Okay, seeing none, we'll call this public hearing closed, bring it back to the commission for further action.
Mr. Chair, I move that we table the conditional use request pending additional information. I have questions on the licensing on Indian Health Services. Like I said, I called the state of Utah for information they had, and I reached out to DOPL. I looked online, there was no licensing. And I just want to make sure that they do comply with state and local requirements as well as Indian Health Services, which is oversight of federal government. That's my opinion. So I would like to move to table the conditional use request pending additional information.
I hear your motion. I'm going to turn my head over towards Roger and say, Roger, my impression is that in this particular case, and Mr. Garcia touched on it, they are overseen by federal agencies, which generally speaking supersede state and local, with the exception of something like this as a conditional use permit. Can you speak to that and educate us a little bit?
I'll try. It's a complex area of law when you combine federal law, tribal law, state law, and local law. But it's my understanding that their operations and facilities are governed by Indian Affairs, but they still have to comply with local zoning and land use and building and fire codes, which is why they're here tonight, because we require them to have a conditional use permit. So that's the short answer in a nutshell, that yes, they have to comply with all the rules that affect this kind of facility. Now, as to the motion, the code allows you to take what time you need to have the information that you need to make a vote. As you point out, you've received a lot of information tonight, and that may be sufficient for some of you. It may not be for others. So you have a motion that is proper, and it would be good to proceed with that motion and see how it comes out.
Thank you, Roger. And I apologize, Commissioner. I should have jumped in and waited for a second before we had discussion, but I wanted to clear my mind a little bit there. So we do have a motion on the table to table until we have some of these questions, and we'll have to I'll probably drill down a little bit on exactly what questions you wish to have, but looking for a second at this point.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's any further discussion, Commissioner Goches, would you restate your motion and specify exactly what information it is that you're looking to get so that we can put that on the record?
I move to table the conditional use request pending additional information regarding Indian Health Services governance and how it relates to state and local codes. This could have an impact to adjacent properties and persons or properties if they, well, I'm not for sure how to state it in my wording, but that's my thought, is that I'd like to be able to make a recommendation that wouldn't have a detrimental effect to the adjacent properties and businesses. And so I wanted to get more information on licensing and Indian Health Services.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Hammer, did you have a comment? Okay.
Chairman,
Please.
So who do you want to provide that information?
I
The applicant or?
did call Roger. Roger, I don't know if you can provide additional information and clarity on state and local code, or if it's just up to us to find additional research.
Well, I can't answer what the federal tribal regulations are for this facility. They are what they are, and you can't affect what they are. You can't add to or take away from what they are. I tried to explain what I think the applicability of local codes are. They apply. They'll have to have fire inspectors, they'll have to have building inspectors, building permits, all of that. So I don't have a question about what local laws apply. I'm just not familiar with tribal regulations and licensing. And I don't know how to get familiar with that. But this gentleman certainly understands that. If he had some information for you on that specifically.
Well, my concerns are from a procedural nature, because I tend to believe that what you're saying is true. We have the ability to oversee local land use and zoning issues. In the event that, I don't know that we have any additional ability to either find an effect that can't be mitigated, which is what we're required to do. If we're required to approve these, unless there's something going on that we can't mitigate and we can't come to an agreement on. I'm not sure we have the ability to mitigate anything if it's something that the tribal government or IHS or Health and Human Services has, Bureau of Indian Affairs has. If they come back with, this is what we do and this is the way we do it, we don't have the ability to make a ruling on that. So that would be my only concern. Not seeing any other questions, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on the motion to table. Commissioner Hammer.
Nay.
Commissioner Proctor.
Nay.
Commissioner Dunn.
Nay.
Commissioner Robinson.
Nay.
Commissioner Jensen.
Nay.
Commissioner Goches.
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan also votes nay. Rule that motion fails. Back to the commission for additional action. Or further motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the permit.
Any additional?
This what's in, I move we approve the conditional use permit required by Victor Garcia, representing Natsu Healthcare, to authorize the use of residential treatment facilities and programs for two parcels located at 461 and 491 South Main Street, application numbers P23-322 and P23-323, based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated April 18th, 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, can I ask Commissioner Proctor if he's amenable to a additional part of his motion, that we add the condition of fencing surrounding the area like has been discussed, including the gates in the area, so to provide for the public welfare and the welfare of those that are inside that facility?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second from Commissioner Dunn. Roll call vote, Commissioner Hammer?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Dunn?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Goches?
Nay.
Commissioner Sloan also votes aye. Rule that passes. Let's see here, we are.
6-1.
Thank you, 6-1, I appreciate that. I'm new here. Item number 4, public hearing and decision on conditional use permit request by Kim Gibson to authorize a home-based daycare business involving the care of 8 to 16 children at 822 Cedar View Circle in the R18 residential zone on .3 acres. Mr. Agard.
Thank you, Commissioners. Hopefully this one's a little easier. This is a home-based daycare proposed for 822 Cedar View Circle, which is the property highlighted in red on the aerial photograph. She's proposing a home-based daycare facility involving the care of 8 to 16 children. I believe she is proposing 11 children in the home. The property is zoned R18, as are all of the surrounding properties, so everything in the area is single-family residential. And the applicant did provide a parking and traffic plan that was included in your packet. They're proposing that the frontage and their driveway be utilized for child drop-off and pickup. As I've mentioned before in previous applications such as this, home-based daycares are slightly different from preschools in that they're not session-oriented, and so the drop-off and pickup times are usually staggered. So staff does not anticipate any significant impacts to the adjacent properties related to this home-based daycare. This is a public hearing. We did send out notices to the property owners within 200 feet, and I have not received any written or verbal comments concerning this application. So we're recommending approval with the basic conditions listed in your report. If you have any questions, I can try and answer them for you.
Thank you, Andrew. Commissions for staff from commission. Let's try this again. Questions from the commission for staff? Seeing none, thank you, Andrew. We'll again open this public hearing. Again, same as last time. If you wish to speak on this issue, please come forward. State your name, where you're from, and when you're done, circle back and record that with our minute taker, if you would. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission for further action.
I'll make a motion.
Please.
I move we approve the conditional use permit request by Kim and Josh Gibson to authorize Kim's Kids, a home-based daycare business involving the care of 8 to 16 children, application number P23-368, based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated April 18th, 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Jensen. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Dunn?
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Goches?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan also votes aye. Rule that passes 7-0. Item number 5, public hearing recommendation on a zoning map amendment request by Holly Jones to reassign the zoning for .39 acres located at 60 South Main Street from GC General Commercial Zoning District to the MUG Mixed Use General Zoning District. Mr. Agard.
Thank you, Commissioners. You're probably familiar with this property as she did a land use map amendment in early March. And during that application, the property was changed from community commercial to mixed use. This zoning map amendment application is the follow-up to that land use map amendment application. And it impacts the existing property highlighted in red. It's the old Gordon Furniture Building, 2-story structure. Property is currently zoned GC General Commercial. As I mentioned, the land use map was recently changed to mixed use. And so the applicant is proposing to change the zoning to mixed use general, which is in compliance with the land use map of the Tooele City General Plan. She is requesting this change to authorize a residential treatment facility, a smaller scale than what was just discussed by the Planning Commission. And there'll be also some commercial activities that will be located in the ground floor of the structure. Those are permitted in the zone and are not a question with this application. See, I think that's about all I have to report on the application. And if you have any questions, happy to answer them for you.
Questions from the commission?
And I believe the applicant is here if you have any questions for her as well.
Okay, seeing no questions, hang on just a second, Ms. Jones. I'll give you your shot. We will open the public hearing. Again, if anyone has anything to say on this, please come forward, state your name, make your statement, and then circle back and make sure that we have your name and contact information. Not seeing anybody. Have at it, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I'll ask a real basic one. You sat through the last hearing.
Sure.
There were quite a few questions, obviously. Did you anything jump out of those questions and those statements that you feel is something we should know regarding your facility, besides obviously scale?
Sure. Yeah, my facility is completely different. They only serve the Medicaid population and tribal population. I serve private insurance. Also, we haven't decided in full if we're going to do a full RTC, which is residential treatment facility, or if we're going to do more of an outpatient with housing above. The reason that I am doing the mixed use is because I'm also part of the Downtown Alliance group, and we really want to bring back the dual purpose to the downtown corridor. It always has historically been that way, so we would like to bring that back down to the downtown area. So to be able to have, my building has 8 residential apartments above, and it has commercial on the main. So we want to be able to have that dual use back in those areas.
Thank you. Further questions for the applicant? Seeing none? Thanks, Ms. Jones.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Not seeing anyone else.
MUG mixed use general zone.
Commissioner Goches?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan also votes aye. Rule that passes 7-0. Item number 6 on the